Welcome to Monday morning. Today being Monday, the week of Passover has begun. Yesterday was quite the celebration. Yesterday, Jesus entered Jerusalem at the pinnacle of his popularity. And since we in our nation seem to always be in a perpetual election mode, that is, somebody's always running for an elected office, I would like to relate this week of Jesus' life to a political campaign. Jesus was the most popular of all the candidates. The people were celebrating him and his accomplishments. His record for the people was outstanding, and they were out in great numbers of support. His coming as the people's chosen person to become king has really got a celebration started. There was a great campaign march, rally, and party led on Sunday morning, yesterday. But the day of voting will not be until Friday. And as any candidate for king knows, you can keep the people happy. If you can keep them happy all the way to election day, well, that's great. But it sometimes can be very easy to fall in the polls pretty quickly, especially when those who are voting are fickle and easily persuaded by the talk of the day. Now, Jesus' record is impeccable. It's just pretty amazing. He has served the people food. He's assisted the handicapped in a mighty way. He's reached out to the children. He's an advocate for the oppressed women. His speeches, well, they are by far the best that anyone has ever heard. He's able to give new life to those who had experienced death, and he's even able to walk on water. The people's candidate for king is a sure winner because the people are excited, they're mesmerized, and all that's going on, Jesus just can't do anything wrong. But this is only Monday morning, and the vote won't be cast till Friday morning. So let's look into the scripture to see what happens next. In John 12:17 through 19, says those in the crowd who had seen Jesus call Lazarus back to life were telling others about it. That was the main reason so many people went out to meet him, because they had heard about this mighty miracle. Then the Pharisees said to each other, "We've lost. Look, the whole world has gone after him." Now we know the religious leaders are looking for any reason at all, any little infraction that will allow them to take the people's chosen leader down. They cannot allow this Jesus to continue gathering more and more popularity. In John 12:10 through 11, it says, "Then the leading priests decided to kill Lazarus too, for it was because of him that many of the people had deserted them and believed in Jesus." Now, it's one thing to want to kill Jesus at the present time because he is leading this great multitude of people. But now you want to kill Lazarus just because Jesus raised him from the dead? These guys are getting a little bit on the crazy side, don't you think? Sunday seemed to be a great day on the campaign trail, though. Jesus can't seem to do or say anything wrong. Everything he does seems to add to his popularity, and the party opposing him is really struggling. Some of the opposing party members are about ready to concede the whole thing, but the religious leaders, well, they're not ready to quit yet. They just keep searching. They keep seeking for something, any little thing that will undermine this crowd favorite. Mark 11:11. It says, "So Jesus came to Jerusalem and went into the temple. And after looking around carefully at everything, he left because it was late in the afternoon. Then he returned to Bethany with the 12 disciples." That's how Sunday ends. Great day of celebration, wonderful events throughout the day, crowd, just amazing crowds coming out to see Jesus. And he stops by the temple, looks around, and decides he's going to go back to Bethany. Now, Sunday has ended on a high note. Jesus goes back to Mary and Martha to sleep it off. But what he witnessed at the temple before he left town kept him awake most of the night. It's now Monday morning, and Jesus heads back to Jerusalem. In Mark 11, 5 through 18, it says, "When they arrived back in Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out the people buying and selling animals for sacrifice. He knocked over the tables of the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves, and he stopped everyone from using the temple as a marketplace. He said to them, 'The scriptures declare my temple will be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you've turned it into a den of thieves.' When the leading priests and the teachers of religious law heard that what Jesus had done, they began planning how to kill him. But they were afraid of him because the people were so amazed by his teaching." Got a problem? This one is getting out of control. Now, Jesus' opposition was now realizing that the only way they were going to beat this guy was to have him assassinated. Now, assassination is a bit extreme, and assassinating the crowd favorite would not be good for their popularity either. So they decide to wait just a little bit longer. Now, Jesus has disrupted more than just the religious leaders, though. His actions in the temple did something that maybe was not wise for a good political leader. He had now upset many people in the crowd as they were profiting from the traditions at the temple. The buyers, the sellers, the money changers, they're all now being a little more easily persuaded by the religious leaders. And let me explain to you maybe why. Let's look at the temple activity a bit differently than how we usually see it. Let's say that your livelihood has to do with selling livestock. Maybe you're a banker that profits from the exchange of currency at the temple. Maybe you receive a percentage of the checks that are cashed at the temple bank. Let's say you are the middleman that owns the table space at the temple, and you receive a commission for selling from the sellers of all their livestock. You see that there could be a little bit of this trickling up and down economy at work here. Many people who were cheering Jesus suddenly were not fond of his financial decisions. As you can see, there's a great deal of money at stake here. And this Jesus that everyone wants to be king wants to shut down business, wants to stop everything. Could you imagine the reaction of the stock market? Could you imagine the reaction of the farmers? How about the bankers? How about anybody else that might be involved in buying and selling? This leader wants to shut down the economy. Jesus just lost some of his voting constituents. You would think a man as wise as Jesus would know better than to upset the voters before Election Day. But it's only Monday, and the election's not till Friday. He should be able to recover, right? He has a speech scheduled for Tuesday. He should be able to win back some of his disgruntled party members. I'll be back with a look at Tuesday tomorrow. But for today, I want you to see that everything is changing. Jesus is exposing the religious leaders and the people for what they're really all about. Sometimes when the truth speaks, even your closest supporters begin to turn against you. I'll see you again on Tuesday morning.